Hello, my name is swissbianco. In this video I will talk about the Swiss military manual of the Carbine 1911-1931 and the scoped Carbine that we had in the Swiss military quite a while ago. Of course, after 1957 the assault rifle did come, a true assault rifle that fires fully automatic, and the carbine did go away pretty fast. So this is not the armorer's manual, this is just the manual that every soldier back then did get. On this one we see on top the number, then for what it is, and below we see this is printed 1956 and originally checked in 1961. So this manual was printed after 1961 in Switzerland for the Swiss military. Those manuals came in German, as we have it here, in French and Italian language, so that would fit for the different soldiers. Of course, I got it in German to read it as best as I can. Now we're gonna quick look through the manual, the different pages. It's quite a big book. You can stop the video at any time to see more close what it is. It's basically interesting about technical matters. First matter we have already here coming, the main differences between the 1911 system and the 1931 was the action. We see on top is the 31, below is the 1911. We see clearly the magazine has a gap between the trigger guard and the magazine by the 1911, which gives it a shorter barrel, a more longer action, inferior action compared to the shortened action from the 31, where the magazine is straight by the trigger guard. So the 31 was superior compared to the 1911. Either the carbine, as we see it here, they also had a long Gewehr, rifle length version out of that. So that's the main difference, as you easy can spot which one is 11 and which one is 31. Just look on the gap between the magazine. If there is no gap, then it's the 31. We see already the length of the barrels. The shorter one with the brass tubing is the 11, and on top the longer one is the 31. Also there is differences, of course, with the threading, this section here. So 31 is superior. The front sight, and the rear sights are pretty similar of the two, also use the same adjuster. We have here the 31 as a cutaway section. The firing pin is also shorter, which makes it a faster igniting gun than the 11, what we see here, way longer construction. But between 1911 and 1931, it's a good couple years, so they had time to perfect the gun. Also the Riegel, the charging handle by the top is 31, the bottom is 11. The 11 usually use a reddish color plastic one that usually gets damaged. The 31 has a silver color aluminum one. that is really hard to damage. That is another feature that you see. Here we have the Verschlusshülse, the bolt that locks, the locking part of the bolt. We see the 31 to the 11, the difference. Here also really nice to see is the 31, the short firing pin, compared to the really long one of the 11. Magazine is also different. There is not much parts that could be used other than the bayonet, the cleaning kit, the sling as best as I remember, and of course the charger, the cardboard charger, as they did not accept the metal one. This is just a lot of writing about taking it apart, put it back together, how to use it. Back then the manual for the general soldier were pretty big. Here we see the positions of the ring, either in cocked position, in fired position, or in the safety. Part of the locking. I just find it interesting to show others also those old manuals. If we look by now 2014, as I do that, such manuals quite likely in USA especially are really hard to get, and those are originals, they are not reprints or later made items. Back in the 80s to 90s I did buy those manuals relatively cheap. We see here the scoped carbine. Some of the scoped carbines had a strange kind of scope on the side that gives you this appearance as you watch through the small optics. I never had one of those, that did fade away really fast. Then the ammunition left is the regular full metal ammunition. Then we have the steel core. Those steel core were heat treated, really good ammunition. I had of those as well. And then here we have the tracer with the tracer part, and then lead again like the regular one. Tracer was pretty good working too. We did shoot that in the Swiss military from time to time. They had a good tracer load in it. And of course they had manipulation ammunition. This one we see with the ribbon, that was solid brass for manipulation. Then this one was green plastic blank, and then we had the same blank but with a wood kind of thing, and this was for the machine gun for better feeding with crimped on top. So regularly later was only the manipulation and the green blank firing one. That green was pretty much a green like my patch. It was pretty aggressive green that they selected. I don't know why, because if you drop such a ammunition in the field, the green on the green, you had a hard time find it again. So that's another, I don't know why they did that, no idea. And one thing more, in that green ammunition, that was black powder apparently, not a smokeless powder, so that did hurt the barrel pretty bad how it looks. And you needed, if you use one or two of those, you either had to shoot real ones, which you mainly couldn't for training there. Then you need to clean the gun completely, especially the barrel, otherwise it would corrode. Here how you aim it, fleck, depending on the target. The Carbine 11 and 31 are straight pull design, so that can be fired pretty fast, usually 6-round magazine. We see here the soldier back then, put down the loader, the cardboard loader, and here we see the same man in the field with the snow, of course, it's Switzerland. Here he stands and opens the action, simply pulling back the action. Here he fills again the cardboard loader with ammunition he did not use. That did not work too well. Either you had 6 pieces, then it works. Otherwise it rattles. You cannot just use 2 or 3 or 4, anything less than 6, and it rattles, and it may even fall out by the gap. So that much for that. Here we see one aiming. There was we were mainly laying on the ground for aiming. That was maybe for guarding, and of course that is old-fashioned shooting. Here we see one with the bayonet and a little bit with a hill. We see also the really old steel helmet, World War II fashion. Here he has a bit of the Zeltplane over it, the tarp that we had. That tarp was fabric, was not impregnated. The water would go through pretty fast. Also it was heavy, and it only had some buttons to put together to a bigger tent, so it was all improved, really improved. Here we see one with that tarp over it. Compared to today's fashion, how we shoot, that is like Stone Age. Here one sits on the tree, shoot down. We see clearly on the side the bayonet. Here behind a bit a little wall or something. Then we have the adjustment of the bullet, the Visierbereich, and how is the accuracy and all that from the gun and the man. Where to aim as the people walk or run. Back then they did do like this as well. That is the Munitionsbefehl, that you cannot take home whatever, and they did change it, the wording, so that was not guilty anymore, so they simply do like this. I did not do that, that was like it did come. Here they show how to prevent damage on the gun. This one, as we see here, the magazine would go in. That's a 11 because the gap between the magazine and the trigger guard, and also the plastic one, that did explode. Not correct ammunition. The 7.5mm GP11 is a special Swiss ammunition, so that was a bit tough, but maybe reloaded, or the bottle was plugged with dirt or over greased. Here, by the way, we see the 2 pieces leather pouch where each 2 of the loaders, cardboard loaders, were in it, 2 here and 2 there. I got my first one as a gift from the man that did basically check on the apartments and clean the stuff, mow the grass. He did retire from military, and he gave that to me. So with little age I already had one of those. We see bulged bottles and blasted open. That was serious. And here one man that check if the bottle is good. They say better check that each time prior you shoot. And of course the bill, if something like that happened, the soldier needed to pay that. Yeah, it's how should I say? Nobody should be forced to military service anyhow. And if something damage, even if it's your own fault, and then you make him pay, that is really the pinnacle of disgusting. So, but that was back then. The people were in a different mood than they are today. How to take out the spring of the magazine? It's that flat spring. It's not a coil spring like we have today. Those springs break way easy. And another thing is with the charging handle, you need to always slide it completely forward. If you have it like this, it will work, but it's gonna damage the action, the system. Here one loses the magazine. The magazine button is on the magazine itself, not on the gun. So each gun had a magazine. Each magazine had a magazine button, not the gun. Here we see the Swiss Army knife. That's maybe for some of you interesting about to take out the extractor. That's already a lot for the soldier, because that is a spring, a flat spring steel, and if you overbend it, that's gonna break. But it works pretty good. I did take them out as well for checking. So trigger action. Yeah, some rough people by the military, farmers and else did stand on it. Here we see with the really old shoes with the steel nails on the shoe. That of course explains some of the marks you have on used rifles that are for sale in USA. Also you see this stock was splitted as they used it as a hammer, and that did happen. That is not a joke or whatever. Some people were simply too rough. And taking apart like this also gonna damage it by the rear sight. And yeah. That you clean it. That's also important for USA. I did make a plastic, a PVC tubing to clean it, so you would not damage the extractor and the parts. But they say basically you can take the bolt apart and use this part of the bolt for cleaning, that it is straight going in from behind. The accurate carbines like this Swiss rifles and carbines, you should always clean from the breech end, as if possible with any gun, from the breech end. So either you take the bolt apart, or you use a PVC pipe that will fit in, that you don't damage the extractor. This of course is completely wrong with the string for cleaning rubbing on the muzzle on one side, so that muzzle is then damaged. Inaccurate. Yeah, partially cleaning things, problems. And they also had a insert, a 22 or 4mm insert. That was already long gone. That was more for civilian use. Leonhardt insert. I think I made a YouTube video on that as well. Then there was muzzle cover. That covers also the front sight. So as you aim, you see, oh, the muzzle cover either aluminum or brass is still on it. You need to remove that, otherwise it destroys. So they made also plastic ones or metal or whatever without the covering, and then you basically damage the gun. Some people did a file on the rear side, and of course the front side is adjustable, and they made some markings, but if you had too many markings, that was not working. And now we come to the scoped carbine 1955. That was more around for a while, but those are really expensive, and basically it's only for collection. It's not worth using it. Those used special accurate barrels. They had a bipod, they had a muzzle brake, a flash hider, and a scope, minimal scope that came with the box. You could take off the scope and put it in the box. Regular German appearance of the scope. The gun itself was pretty much like the 31, except for the bipod and the scope and the flash hider, of course. Flash hider was piece of art. That was really lated and milled deluxe by hand back then. Wonder how many hours they had to do that. Scope was minimal. That did not help much at all. They did not make too many of those, basically for snipers back then. Yeah, up to 500 meters they say here to shoot, to test out the sniper scoped version. Yeah, that much it is from the manual for the Swiss Carbine 1131 and the scoped Carbine 1955. Original Swiss manual in German.